As a preacher, I like when the readings line up just right, and it makes my job quite easy. What's nice is that our first reading pretty quickly establishes what's our problem that we're addressing this weekend. We're going back to the book of Isaiah, which we've heard a lot from for the last many weeks. Advent, Christmas, last week, this week. And in this, we're at kind of the tail end of Israel having kings. And actually, it was weeks ago that we heard the reading that preceded this one, so it takes a little bit of memory. But there was this king, right, the king of the Israelites, and he's freaking out because all the nations around him are making alliances and talking about going to war and whose side are you on this, whose side are you on that. And this prophet Isaiah shows up and reminds him that all he has to do, king, is trust in God. In fact, just ask God for a sign. Just ask him to show you how good he is. He wants to prove it to you, just ask him. But the king is a dummy, so he doesn't. He doesn't ask anything. He doesn't trust God either, so that's why he's not asking. But Isaiah then follows that up with, okay, well, since you don't trust in God, here's the consequence, right? These invaders are going to run right through our country, and that's going to be the consequence. The people will be split up, exiled, divided. Today, we continue that reading into what Isaiah says next, which is that the people in darkness have seen a great light. That God's plan is eventually one day going to shine out and fix all these problems, all these people scattered afar. Well, that goes into our psalm today, where we very over and over heard again this light of God. This light is an important theme this weekend. This psalm is from King David, and it's before Isaiah, and he's remembering fondly the fact that God has done all these good things for him, that he delivered him from his enemies, that King David was protected by the Lord, and so he's thanking God in this psalm, in this song. He sees God as a light and a salvation, and he names that. And then he tells the people to wait for the Lord, that these people who are in darkness, right, again, remember, wait for the Lord, there will be light. We go into the second reading with 1 Corinthians, and now we're in the New Testament, right? Things have changed quite a bit since Isaiah and King David. Because Paul knows who the light is. Paul has met the light in a spiritual way. He knows Jesus Christ. He knows the plan. But he names for the early church a problem that they are facing, that there's divisions amongst them. We heard in that reading that some followed Cephas, or some followed Apollos, or some followed this or that. They were dividing themselves, even within the one body of the church. And Paul says, when you do that, church, when you divide yourselves this way into little factions, you are undoing what Jesus did on the cross. Jesus, the light of the world, lifted up for all to see, sought to gather all the nations. He died for everybody, not just one or two people. And so when we cause these factions, we're going against Jesus himself and what he did for us. Unity, Paul says, is what we need. Because if unity is not kept, well, then we don't worship properly. And when we don't worship properly, everything else in the moral order falls apart. That leads us to our gospel. And we hear from Jesus kind of some of his first public words. Repent, the kingdom is at hand. That God's plan is happening now. In the past, they were exiled, spread out, divided. But now Jesus is reversing all of that and bringing all back together. Healing, right? He literally goes out and heals and forgives sins. He gathers people from all these different lands, which were talked about earlier in the readings. And now he's gathering people from those places back. And who does he gather to do this work? Just some regular old people. Just some normal old, not that special people. Not the brightest, not the best. Jesus gathers to himself everybody, sinners even, bad sinners, and sinners that maybe aren't as bad, but he gathers them all. He's enacting this new plan, which is gathering all the world so that they could be a united people, gathered in worship. Worshiping God at church, then, is the most important thing. It's a sacred activity, what we're doing right here in this place. It's a sacred activity. It can't be interrupted. It can't be set aside. It is the most important thing we do. The culture around us does not care about worship. It could care less. But as Christians, we are called to firmly state and declare that worship is our priority above everything else. The first act of justice is actually worshiping, right? Justice is what is due to the other person. Before justice is due to anybody else, it's due to our God, who made us out of love, who in fact loves so perfectly that he created everything to participate in his love. That action of love deserves a response. It demands justice. And so the first act of justice we can do in our lives is worshiping God. From the beginning of salvation history, God has always called people into relationship with him through these covenants. Think of Abraham being called to worship. Think of Israel being set free from captivity so that they could worship the one true God. Think of the Ten Commandments. What do they start with? A claim on the human heart. I, the Lord, am your God. You shall have no other gods besides me. And even the prophets, all these souls that prepared the way for Jesus, they linked social disorder to bad worship. That's how important worship is. If we don't do this right, everything else in society will fall apart. And it's seen multiple times in the scriptures to do just that. Why is this so crucial? Why is this so important? Because true and good worship shapes our thoughts. It informs our intellect. It makes sure all of our thoughts are geared towards the right stuff. It forms our will so that we choose to do what is best for us and for others. It forms our very actions so that we have the energy to do what we need to do. And it even shapes our bodies, as we talked about right before Mass with genuflecting and making that sign of the cross. Even our bodies then are ordered to what is most important through these little acts of reverence that we do, these little motions and actions that show that God is the priority and nothing else. Unity has to start here. Unity has to start in this church. Look at all those who in recent times have stopped believing. Look at the social disorder around us. Is everything clear? No. There is a darkness. But over and over again, what is the message of this weekend? That there is a light revealed to the nations, a light revealed to all. The answer to all these things is Jesus Christ. And that answer lives in us when we gather and worship.